already.
Oh,
We'll just start. This is what happens when you work from home, right?
yes.
John's literally working from home while we're recording this intro. We just did a fun story about 4-day work weeks and the efficacy, increasing popularity, adoption on the rise, all good signs.
Yeah, Mike and John are very positive about the future, and I'm not so much. But
I am.
I wish I was.
My concern is just making sure that it lifts up the entire all of labor, not just white collar labor. But
right,
I think there are some good signs. There's some concerning signs too, but we'll break it down.
And it all kind of kicks off talking about a study done in the UK of a ton of firms that was done over like 6 months, and the results are overwhelmingly positive and have just been released. And that, by the way, was with a whole with service workers and tech workers and all sorts of different things. So.
We get to do our work reform story today. It's not really work reform.
Hey,
it's the 4-day work week stuff.
It's like it is work reform. That is part of work reform. In my opinion, it is.
Okay.
It's
a great part of work reform. I'm fully on board with this. I love it.
We mentioned it. Okay, the rundown is that the UK did a 6-month study of thousands of companies to trial a 4-day work week. And the studies finished and the results came out, and they are phenomenally positive in almost every aspect. There's a BBC article that Mike's scrolling through here. But on the Discords, our Discord, which you should come and join us, by the way, after you click that subscribe button. Yeah. Sorry, I hate shilling, even if it's for ourselves. Some numbers: 92% of organizations are continuing with the 4-day work week. They, on average, experienced a 35% revenue increase. The number of staff leaving decreased by 57%. 15% said no amount of money would make them go back to 5 days. There were 39% less stress, 71% reduced level of burnout. There's all these amazing stats from it, and it's all just like, yeah, we should do it. And do you know the shitty thing about it is, despite this like conclusive study being done, probably nothing much is going to change.
I don't know.
So
I don't know. I feel like things are going to keep moving in that direction.
But this is moving in the right direction because 92% of companies are sticking to it after they finish the study. Yes. I'll tell you what. So back in the day, a few months ago, maybe even closer to a year, I actually pitched you guys on a 2-day work week. And I had the numbers to back it up. I don't know if you guys remember. The whole math worked out. I still believe that would work. But I would settle for half the week. 3.5. 3 days and half a day.
So, funnily enough, someone actually recently just joined our Discord. I think I'm saying this. The name's Violet. Hi, Violet. And they came on and mentioned a book called Bullshit Jobs by a guy called David Graeber. And I went and looked it up. And it's about it's kind of asking the question of like, why are we not all working 15% of what we're working now, like 15% of the week, which is about a 2-day work week, right? 2 days. Yeah. So we should be. I think you're right, John. I don't know if I disagreed with it at the time, but
no, I think what people are scared of is like I've only mentioned this to a few people, including you guys, but I think what scares people when they hear a 2-day work week is how could all the industries function? And the industries could still function. Like you could get the same amount of manpower out of 2-day work weeks then, because it's just math. You might have to hire more heads, but you don't have to pay more money because everyone's just working 2 days. And because everyone's working 2 days, you will always have overlap. There'll never be a day where you're out of workers. Mike, you look puzzled.
So elaborate on that bit about not getting paid as much.
What?
You said it's not going to cost you more money because you can hire more people, but you won't have to pay them as much. What's that mean?
Oh, okay. Well, that so you'd have to obviously pay living wages for these 2 days, right?
Yeah. So I think I think we're thinking about this slightly. So, like, I guess compare that then to this 4-day work week where you're still getting paid for the full time. You're getting paid the same money.
Okay,
You're only working 4 days.
The 4-day work week, I think, works because you can get the 5 days worth of work out of 4 days.
Right.
You don't actually need that extra 8 hours.
So then what's the argument for 2 days that you don't actually?
Well, I'm actually using a different industry. I don't know. I was thinking of the service industry always. That was just in my head, like working at a restaurant, for example. So instead of working, I get what you're saying. You would have to pay them more money and you would have to hire more people. So it would be more expensive, which I guess technically is the truth.
Well, maybe. So I think there's 2 categories here. We did a story not too long ago, I think, where we talked about, I think it was Keynes, one of the big economists. I know it was like Keynesian economics and then a whole other like combative school, like competing school, combative. And he had predicted that we would have a 4-day work week. And then there was a congressional study like in the 50s or 60s that said we should have eventually would have a 3-day work week because of increased productivity, which is true. If you look at the studies, productivity has skyrocketed, wages have gone dead flat.
Yeah.
So what these studies are finding is that you can be just as productive in 4 days as in 5 days. Some say maybe even just as productive in 3 days. I think then you start getting to the point though where it's not that the corporation can't function, but they might not be quite as profitable because the employees are getting some of that value back. The other split is so start there and then I'll go to the other split. What's your sense of that?
So maybe I'll take this and correct it. It would cost more money to do this than
in the service
obviously
industry.
It would cost more money in the service industry.
Yeah. So the service industry.
I actually think. Do you guys remember the percentage of water cooler work? I think we've talked about this before. Back in the office days before COVID, how much time was spent water coolering? It was something like 40%, or like actual work done was like 20% of hard work.
Yeah.
Now these are maybe arbitrary numbers. I'm not remembering exactly. But that's really the point, is if you're an office worker and you actually only need 20% of the time spent at work to get your job done, well, then you really only need a day or two in the office.
Right.
Not in the office physically, but like hard work, right? Hard, you get your shit done. Yeah.
And so the other piece of it then is the service workers. And this may be why it doesn't sound familiar, John. I think Peter and I maybe did this story while you were away about the article was basically just saying that all this talk about 4-day work week is just a white collar problem. It doesn't help blue collar workers and setting them aside. And what we said then, which I'll say now, is they also should be getting paid more. They should,
of course.
The problem with the service work is it's often hourly work, and the companies want to pay as few hours as possible. And the point that the woman in this other article said is, people don't want to work less; they want to work more. And I said, no, they don't want to work more. They want the money.
No, just want to earn more.
They don't want to work more hours. They want to have more money.
No one wants to work more.
Right. And if you do, God bless, have at it. Oh, you were here. Okay, so, and I think that's what. Yes, the 4-day work week, 3-day work week, whatever. No brainer. And some of the, not for like satisfaction, happiness, but number of staff leaving decreased by 57%. 35% revenue increases, improved absenteeism. Like those things go to the bottom line of the business.
Yeah.
It's 100% win-win all the way around. You just don't get to babysit your employees the same way.
But that's why I said it's depressing that I don't think anything is going to really change. I think
it's going to be so slow of a progress, Peter. I think it's going to be such a slow progress that we're not going to feel it. It's not going to just click on, but we're inching towards it because people who are influential in pushing something like this, like the UK government doing a pilot, right? Like that's pretty big.
It is cool.
And then if it succeeds in the UK, Sweden or Finland or Norway might pick it up nationwide and say, that's it. No more working more than 4 days. max 4 days. And
That's
then
true.
they pick it up. So Spain and France pick it up. And all of a sudden you have a whole continent pretty much doing this. And now America is asking, whoa,
Yeah,
should we
I
do
see what
this?
you mean. It's going to take
I
a
don't-
while.
It's just going to be a really slow
It's not
process.
I don't think it's the governments that are going to drive it. I think it's going to be hiring. I think companies are going to say, "Oh shit, we can't hire because these
if
other
you can
companies are offering
sell-
4-day work week."
Yep. Yeah.
This is the thing. So the I guess part of my skepticism comes from the fact that we've recently proven that working from home is better for the company and better for the employees and actually, better overall. But there's still a lot of companies who are just insisting that people have to get back to the office, which just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
But nowhere near as many were before, and they're getting a ton of pushback. Like the needle has moved so far to the work from home side over the past 3 years. Initially out of necessity, now out of inertia. People are very resistant to going back in the office. We're never going to get back to that point, I think, that we were going into 2000.
And any company that is holding firm on staying remote full time is going to have pick of the litter in terms of talent. You are now naturally going to attract the talent out of the pool of potential employees, because no one, more or less, like largely, wants to go back to full time in office. Hybrid, sure, whatever. But if you're like, no, we're a remote first company, you're going to be selling yourself hard. Like that works. Yeah. And I think the same exact thing is going to happen with 4-day work weeks eventually, where maybe some governments, a little bit more socialist democratic governments will do this, but tech companies like to copy this kind of stuff. They're like, oh shit, that's really working out for them. Why don't we try 4-day work weeks, full time, everyone all the time? And then it works, and you get to put that on your job board. Like, that's a huge selling point.
And this doesn't apply directly to service industries. It's difficult. Not every job can be done remotely. Some jobs are location dependent, high security jobs, for example. So another important piece of this is going to be making sure that labor overall, not just white collar workers, benefit from this shift. And I don't know if it's direct, like it's going to work out that way. I think we'll have to be intentional about it. But then on the other side, we see some of the labor movements for unionization and things like that, minimum wage efforts, and things have gotten, well, I was going to say gotten better, but there's plenty of counterexamples too. The railroad thing recently was pretty terrible. So,
oh God.
Not the crash, the railroad strike that was averted because it was deemed illegal. So I think we're moving in the right direction, and I think my prediction for the year was that we'll see some pretty major progress, and I still think that's going to be true.
I think so too. But major progress can come in many different shapes, forms, and sizes. So we're just going to have to keep an eye out for this, because it might not be what we imagine